On September 11, 2001, the World Trade Center Towers 1 and 2 collapsed after being hit by planes. In this video, we'll use FEM models to reconstruct the collapses and examine whether the simulated behavior matches what actually happened. After that, we'll try to figure out why WTC2 was hit second, but collapsed first. It's also important to note that although both towers were struck, they were hit in different ways. As shown with the red arrows in the image, WTC1 was hit from the north side into the long side of the core. The weaker structural direction, WTC2, was hit from the south side, impacting the short side, the stronger side of the core. By the end of this video, I'll also explain why the table helps tell a part of the story of the World Trade Center collapse. To give you a sense of the building, the World Trade Center towers had 110 floors. Each tower measured approximately 200 by 200 feet, about 65 by 65 meters. The exterior columns were 14 by 14 inches in cross-section, while the massive core columns measured 36 by 16 inches. The floors were constructed using steel trusses topped with concrete slabs. Let's start with WTC1, the building that was hit first but collapsed second. The top 12 floors remained undamaged. The impact from the plane occurred below these floors. After gathering some information from the official FEMA report, we can observe the following. First, a floor plan of the 91st floor shows the estimated location where the plane impacted the building. The second image clearly shows that the plane hit the building in the weak direction, meaning the long side of the building along the shorter axis of the core. The third image shows the damage to the facade on the north side, where the plane struck. Let's take a look at the model. The columns at the front of the building and within the core, where the plane impacted, have been removed to illustrate the damage. In this case, the plane struck near the middle, slightly toward the east side of the building. The affected columns and floor sections have been removed, as they most likely lost their structural function completely. Only self-weight is applied. Now let's see what the core does. Only the 30 floors on the top are modeled to work with a kind of workable model. The deflections are higher since the building was 3 to 4 times as tall. When we take a closer look, we see that the determining deflection goes down. The building moves slightly horizontally, with similar displacement in both the north and east directions. Now let's look at the outer ring columns. The movement is similar to what we observed in the core, but it's a bit more visible here. Interestingly, the deflection of the outer ring is actually smaller than the deflection we saw in the core, but mostly focused horizontally. Now, real footage from the north side, left, and west side, right, of the building. If we focus on the mast, we get the best sense of the movement. Since the core columns were impacted more directly on the east side, it's normal that the building deflects in that direction. In the left video, we can clearly see movement toward the east. In the right video, we can clearly see movement toward the north. All observed movements match the FEM model, so there are no unexpected behaviors. Now, let's move on to WTC2, the tower that was hit second but collapsed first. The top 25 floors remained undamaged. The FEMA report does not show the exact impacted area of the WTC2 building. However, we do know the direction and point of impact, and by comparing it with the known impact on WTC1, we can estimate the damage to WTC2. The plane struck the building on the south side, slightly impacting the core and hitting the inner part of the east side. Most likely, only the corner of the core was affected. This is again visible in the model. The columns and floor sections that were affected have been removed to illustrate the damage. In this case, the core moves downward and also shifts toward the south and east. The horizontal deflection appears to be greater in one direction than in the other, which is different from what we observed in WTC1. The outer columns sway in the same direction as the core. Here it becomes even clearer that the deflection toward the east is much greater than toward the south. Now, real footage from the northwest side of the WTC2 building. There is no mast to focus on, so we have to observe the shape of the building through the smoke. The collapse clearly concentrates toward the east. In both videos, we don't see much movement toward the south, the side of impact, even though some movement should be visible in the video on the right. This is not surprising, as more core columns were lost on the east side than on the south side. Here we can also see that the deflection clearly focuses in one direction, which matches the behavior predicted by our model. Let's compare the two buildings in terms of deflection. An important starting point is the weight resting above the area where the deflection begins. The weight above the damaged floors in WTC2 is, of course, much higher. The vertical Z-direction deflections are greater in WTC1, mainly due to the longer unsupported spans. This resulted in more compression in the remaining columns of WTC1 compared to WTC2. However, deflections in the X direction, the long side of the core, and Y direction can also have a significant impact. Even more interesting, in my view, are the resultants of these deflections. Let's have a look at this. WTC1. The building attempts to tilt in the direction of the green line. This is the resultant, as shown by the FEM model. Because the building tries to collapse in a different direction than where the damage or gaps are located, other structural elements, see the blue lines, are able to temporarily take over the load. Again and now, the WTC2. The building attempts to tilt in the direction of the green line. But in this case, far fewer structural elements remain intact. Combined with the higher weight above the impact zone, it becomes clear why WTC2 collapsed first. So now, let's compare it to a table with one leg cut. The cut representing the plane impact. A question to you. Which load, the red on the corner above the impacted area or the blue one at the midpoint along the edge of the table, would have the greatest effect in causing the table to collapse, assuming both are applied in the same way? In the case of the World Trade Center, the red arrow represents WTC2, and the blue one represents WTC1. The blue arrow is much more likely to be carried by a standing column, just like the WTC1. Now imagine that the red load equals the weight of 25 floors, and the blue one only 12. This makes it completely logical that WTC2 collapsed first. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.